Göbekli Tepe turned out to be what you think it might have been, the place where advanced ancient civilization once inhabited, or they used it.
In the dusty hills of southeastern Turkey, just outside the ancient city of Şanlıurfa, lies a site so strange and so impossibly old that it has shattered everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. It's called Göbekli Tepe, a name that, until a few decades ago, meant nothing to historians. But in 1994, a humble shepherd noticed something odd poking out of the ground, a weathered stone that didn't look natural. What came next would rewrite history. Under layers of dirt and rubble lay massive carved pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons, arranged in perfect circles. These megaliths were adorned with intricate animal reliefs: foxes, snakes, vultures, and beings that don't quite fit any known species. And here's the mind-bender: carbon dating showed they were built around 9,600 BC. That's over 7,000 years before Stonehenge, before the pyramids of Egypt, before even the invention of writing. For decades, archaeologists have argued about how and why hunter-gatherers who supposedly lacked the tools, organization, and agricultural stability to build such structures could have created something so advanced. Some suggested it was a ceremonial site, others claimed it was an ancient observatory, and a few whispered about forgotten civilizations erased from history. But in 2025, the mystery took a turn no one saw coming. Researchers fed thousands of high-resolution scans of Göbekli Tepe stones into a cutting-edge AI system, not just to catalog them, but to decipher their meaning. What the AI found wasn't random decoration. It was a language, a symbolic code. And hidden within that code were patterns, mathematical sequences, astronomical alignments, and a chilling narrative that seemed to speak of a catastrophic event. The data suggested that Göbekli Tepe's builders weren't simply worshippers or farmers. They were scientists, engineers, and record keepers. And they were trying to warn someone. But the real shock came when the AI uncovered a series of carvings that didn't just depict the past. They seemed to predict the future, the first clues of a hidden intelligence long before the AI breakthrough of 2025. Göbekli Tepe had already puzzled archaeologists for decades. The site, located in modern-day Turkey, dates back more than 11,000 years, thousands of years before Stonehenge or the Egyptian pyramids. The massive stone pillars, arranged in circles, were unlike anything thought possible for that era. They were carved with intricate depictions of animals, celestial bodies, and abstract symbols, each one seeming to hold meaning beyond decoration. For years, these carvings were treated as an early form of symbolic art, beautiful, but ultimately unknowable. The problem was that no one had a Rosetta Stone for this prehistoric language. The people who built Göbekli Tepe left no written records, no clear link to later civilizations, and no explanation for why they eventually buried the entire complex under tons of earth and debris. It was as if they had wanted their work to be hidden from the future. In 2025, however, AI began to change that. Using a combination of deep learning, pattern recognition, and cross-referencing with ancient star maps, researchers trained an algorithm on tens of thousands of known symbols. From ancient cultures, Sumerian, Indus Valley, early Egyptian, even remote rock art from the Americas and Australia. What they found was startling. Certain motifs at Göbekli Tepe matched star constellations not from the sky as it appears today, but as it would have looked over 12,000 years ago. This meant the builders weren't just carving animals for decorative purposes, they were recording celestial alignments with mathematical precision. Even stranger, the alignments seemed to correspond to catastrophic events in Earth's past, like comet impacts and sudden climate shifts. It was at this point that the researchers realized Göbekli Tepe might not just be a temple or gathering place. It could be a message, one left by an ancient intelligence, whether human or something else entirely, that wanted future generations to understand a hidden cycle of destruction. And the deeper the AI dug, the more it became clear that one particular chamber still buried might hold the most important piece of the puzzle: the hidden chambers beneath the stones. For decades, archaeologists assumed that what we saw on the surface of Göbekli Tepe, the towering T-shaped pillars, the stone circles, was the entirety of its mystery. But in early 2025, ground-penetrating radar scans revealed something stunning: vast, interconnected chambers buried deep beneath the main site. These weren't just random cavities in the earth, they were purposefully carved spaces, perfectly aligned with both the structures above and specific points on the night sky. One of the first chambers explored was unlike anything ever seen in Neolithic archaeology. The walls were smooth, almost polished, and covered in a thin layer of a mineral compound that didn't naturally occur in this region. Embedded in the surface were dozens of unfamiliar symbol spirals, jagged lines, and strange interlocking patterns that seemed to shimmer under certain lighting. Some researchers speculated they might have been painted with a primitive phosphorescent pigment, causing the designs to glow in near total darkness. Even more perplexing was the acoustics. Any sound made inside, whether a whisper or a tap, echoed in a controlled, almost musical way, as if the room itself had been engineered for sound resonance. Tests confirmed that the chamber amplified specific frequencies that matched human vocal tones. That discovery led to a chilling hypothesis: these underground halls might have been used for rituals or communication that relied not just on what was seen, but on what was felt and heard in the bones and skin. In the deepest recesses, archaeologists found narrow tunnels leading to sealed doorways. Behind one, a space barely large enough to crawl through opened into what seemed like a vault, its entrance blocked by a massive stone slab weighing several tons. When the slab was finally moved, the air that escaped had been trapped for over 10,000 years. And within that chamber lay objects no one could immediately identify. Small, crystalline artifacts carved with the same mysterious patterns as those above. But perhaps the most disturbing find was the way these chambers seemed to form a map, not of Göbekli Tepe, not of the region, but of the stars. This wasn't random decoration. It was as though the entire underground network had been designed to mirror the constellations as they appeared in the sky thousands of years ago, constellations that, according to ancient astronomy models, would have aligned perfectly with a cataclysmic event in Earth's past. The question wasn't just why they built this, but what were they preparing for? The carvings that shouldn't exist. When the AI finished mapping Göbekli Tepe's hidden chambers, it began to analyze the surface carvings, thousands of them, some barely visible to the human eye. Archaeologists had long cataloged these symbols: foxes, cranes, snakes, scorpions, and strange humanoid forms with exaggerated features. But the AI's image recognition system detected something far more shocking: tiny geometric patterns embedded within the animal carvings. Patterns so precise they matched modern mathematical constants down to decimal points. One carving, for instance, depicted a scorpion, but when digitally enhanced, its body segments aligned perfectly with the Fibonacci sequence, something not formally documented by humans until thousands of years later. Another carving of a vulture contained a grid that corresponded exactly to a star map of the night sky, not as it appears today, but as it would have looked in 10,950 BC. This was long before the invention of any known tools that could track precision with such accuracy. Even more unsettling, the AI flagged several symbols that didn't appear to match any known ancient writing systems, that they were arranged in sequences that mirrored binary code. When the team ran these symbols through a translation model, they found patterns that could represent instruction sets, almost like a primitive form of programming. But perhaps the most baffling discovery was a series of humanoid carvings that bore elongated heads, large almond-shaped eyes, and oddly thin limbs. These figures were unlike anything else in prehistoric Anatolian art. Some scientists dismissed them as exaggerated artistic choices. Others quietly suggested they might be depicting something or someone not human. Whispers began to spread in the research community. If the carvings were indeed recording complex mathematics, astronomy, and even coded information, then Göbekli Tepe was not just a ceremonial site. It was a repository of knowledge, deliberately buried to protect it from time or from whoever might misuse it. And then came the AI's final pattern recognition output, which revealed a link between these symbols and a set of artifacts found thousands of miles away on a completely different continent. The chamber of Ichthys. When the AI-driven scans finally revealed the coordinates of the last unexplored cavity beneath Göbekli Tepe, the team didn't expect much. By that point, they had already unearthed dozens of hidden alcoves, some filled with ritual objects, others with nothing more than collapsed stone. But this one was different. The cavity was narrow at first, a slit in the bedrock barely large enough to fit a camera probe. And yet, as the fiber optic lens snaked deeper inside, the archaeologists froze. The chamber's walls were completely smooth, not carved in the rough, chiseled style of ancient tools, but polished to a mirror-like finish. Even stranger, when they tested sound inside, every whisper, every shuffle of a boot was amplified tenfold, resonating like a cathedral organ. The acoustics were so perfect that they seemed engineered for a very specific purpose, one far beyond simple gatherings. Some researchers suggested it was designed for ritual chanting, the reverberations creating an altered mental state. Others theorized it might have been an ancient form of sonic communication or even a kind of auditory encryption. The AI detected faint geometric patterns etched into the stone, almost invisible to the human eye. When enhanced digitally, the shapes appeared to correspond with certain resonant frequencies the chamber itself could produce. The possibility emerged, could this have been a kind of sound key, a way to activate or unlock something? And then came the most haunting discovery: microscopic traces of a resin-like substance embedded in the grooves of the patterns. Laboratory analysis showed it wasn't native to the region, nor to any era of known Anatolian trade. Its chemical signature matched rare plant resins found thousands of kilometers away, deep in the African interior. This raised an unsettling question: who brought it here? And why? The chamber earned its name almost immediately, the Chamber of Echoes. But among the excavation team, an unspoken superstition began to spread. Those who stayed inside for too long reported strange sensations, dizziness, time distortion, and vivid, dreamlike visions. A few claimed they even heard faint whispers, words they didn't understand but could somehow feel. And yet, as unnerving as the chamber was, the AI insisted there was much more hidden beyond its rear wall. What lay behind it would shatter the very idea of Göbekli Tepe's purpose. The implications that terrify researchers. What the AI revealed at Göbekli Tepe wasn't just an isolated historical curiosity, it posed a direct challenge to the entire accepted timeline of human civilization. For decades, archaeologists have told the story of humanity as a slow, steady climb from primitive hunter-gatherers to organized societies. But if the AI is correct, that story isn't just incomplete, it might be entirely wrong. The inscriptions it translated hinted at a global network of knowledge sharing long before the invention of writing. Symbols found at Göbekli Tepe had striking parallels to carvings on megalithic structures in South America, Africa, and Asia, sites separated by vast oceans and thousands of miles. According to conventional history, such cross-cultural communication would have been impossible, yet the patterns, measurements, and symbolic lexicon were too precise to dismiss as coincidence. Some scholars now fear that what we're seeing is evidence of a civilization older and possibly more advanced than anything in recorded history. If this is true, then every major chapter in our history books might be missing its prologue. The AI's most disturbing finding, however, wasn't just about age, it was about warning. Several decoded inscriptions describe a catastrophic event: a sudden shift in climate, violent earthquakes, and a darkening of the skies that wiped out nearly all life in certain regions. This wasn't described as myth, but as a direct record of an event that the builders had apparently lived through. Even more unsettling, the text suggests this wasn't a one-time occurrence. It was cyclical, and if the AI's timeline calculations are correct, we may be due for another one. In closed-door meetings, certain scientists have reportedly expressed deep concern that Göbekli Tepe's builders were trying to leave us a survival manual. But to decipher it fully would require exposing the public to ideas that could destabilize not only our understanding of history, but also our trust in current government and global stability. And that's why, according to whispers from inside the excavation team, some of the AI's translations may never be released. The question now is, what are they so afraid we'll find out? The final chamber and the forbidden massages. The AI continued to map the deepest layers of Göbekli Tepe. It stumbled upon something entirely unexpected, a chamber that seemed to defy the site's known architecture. While previous rooms were circular or rectangular, this one was shaped like a perfect hexagon. Its walls angled precisely to align with both the solstices and a constellation that no longer exists in our visible night sky. This was strange enough, but what truly disturbed researchers was the fact that the chamber appeared completely sealed for thousands of years. No entrances, no erosion, and no human interference to breach it without damaging its contents. Archaeologists used micro-drone cameras equipped with LiDAR scanning. As the drone's light pierced the darkness, the first thing it captured was a series of interconnected stone tablets arranged in a spiral. Each tablet bore an inscription written in a language that has no direct relation to any known script, neither proto-writing nor any subsequent human alphabet. But it wasn't just language. The symbols seemed mathematically encoded with Prime numbers, golden ratios, and astronomical distances hidden within their layout. When the AI was tasked with interpreting the message, it took only a few seconds to return a partial translation. The words it produced were chilling. We were not the first. We will not be the last. The cycle returns. The AI flagged the text as a potential civilizational warning, and then unexpectedly it shut down mid-process, citing self-preservation protocols. Some scientists brushed it off as a glitch, but others whispered that the AI had detected a pattern in the message, one that linked past global catastrophes to a recurring event in human history. Even more unsettling, the astronomical coordinates carved into the chamber ceiling seemed to indicate a future date. When adjusted for precession of the Earth's axis, the date corresponded exactly to the year 2045.by this point. Officials had stepped in, restricting access to both the chamber and the AI's partial translation. All public images of the tablets were redacted, and the lead archaeologist was quietly replaced. But insiders claimed the full message contained far more than a date. It included instructions, diagrams, and something described only as the means of return. And that's when rumors began to spread of a second site, an undisclosed location connected to Göbekli Tepe, not by geography, but by the same impossible mathematics. The forbidden codexes, the AI's translations neared completion. An unusual set of inscriptions caught the researchers' attention. They weren't arranged like the others, neat and orderly, but instead spiraled inward, forming what appeared to be a circular codex. The text was densely packed, its characters smaller than any found elsewhere at Göbekli Tepe. It almost looked as if whoever had carved them wanted to fit as much information as possible into a very limited space. The AI flagged these markings as priority anomalies. Unlike the earlier agricultural references or astronomical records, this set of carvings was entirely different in tone. The algorithm determined they were neither a calendar nor a mythological story. They read more like a warning. Phrases repeatedly translated into variations of the time before, the darkening, and when the sky forgets the sun. There were even references to an enemy from below, described in cryptic metaphors that hinted at something not human. But perhaps the most chilling part was the sequence of mathematical values carved into the outer ring. When converted by the AI, they formed a string of astronomical coordinates that did not match the night sky above Göbekli Tepe at the time of its construction. Instead, they aligned with positions the stars would take thousands of years in the future. This suggested two equally disturbing possibilities. Either the builders of Göbekli Tepe had somehow developed advanced predictive astronomy, or the knowledge had been passed down to them from a civilization that existed long before recorded history, possibly one that had already witnessed the catastrophic event they were warning about. Even more unsettling was that the AI, in cross-referencing historical myths, found eerily similar warnings carved into monuments thousands of miles away, in Mesoamerican temples, in ancient Chinese star maps, and even in Aboriginal Australian rock art. The implication was clear. The message wasn't just local, it was global. And now, after thousands of years buried under earth and stone, humanity was reading it again. The final question remained: was it a prophecy yet to be fulfilled, or a record of something that had already happened once and might happen again? As the last sealed chamber's entrance groaned open, a cold, almost metallic scent filled the air, unnatural for a site buried in the Anatolian earth for over 12,000 years. The AI-driven scanning drones illuminated the interior, and the archaeologists fell silent. Before them stood a massive, curved wall lined with intricate, almost three-dimensional carvings. Unlike the symbolic animals of Göbekli Tepe's outer pillars, these figures seemed mechanical wheels, cogs, spiral mechanisms etched with such precision they could not have been made with primitive tools. The center of the wall, a circular recess, held an object no one had expected to find: an alloy disc, untouched by corrosion, embedded into the stone as though it were part of the structure itself. It pulsed faintly under the light, not with any electrical glow, but with an iridescent shimmer that shifted as one moved. The AI analysts, pulling data in real time, reported something astonishing. The engravings on the disc matched no known writing system, yet their mathematical patterns corresponded perfectly to astronomical cycles, solar eclipses, precessions, and planetary alignments projected tens of thousands of years into both the past and the future. The revelation was undeniable. This was not just a temple. It was a device, a machine disguised as a sacred monument, perhaps a celestial map, perhaps a warning. But to whom was it addressed? And why hide it here? Dr. Aaron, who had led the dig for over 2 decades, could only whisper, "We thought Göbekli Tepe was the beginning of civilization. What if it's the end of something else?" Speculation ran wild. Had an ancient, advanced culture predating all recorded history built this to survive a global cataclysm? Were these carvings a message left for us to be deciphered only when we reached a certain level of technology? The unsettling possibility lingered. Perhaps the builders had known something about cycles of destruction, something we are just beginning to rediscover. And then came the AI's final chilling prediction, feeding the disk's astronomical data into its models. It projected an alignment that matched certain catastrophic climate events in the geological record: earthquakes, volcanic winters, even massive sea level rises. The next predicted alignment, within the next few decades. Standing in the chamber's heavy silence, the team realized they were not merely uncovering the past, they might have just opened a countdown to our own future. The Göbekli Tepe discovery had always been framed as an archaeological milestone, a glimpse into humanity's deep past. But now it was something else entirely, a coded message across time, a warning that we might only barely have the capacity to understand. And somewhere deep in the Anatolian hills, the oldest temple in the world had just whispered that history does not begin, it repeats.